in India, more and more news outlets are involved not only in reporting the news, but being part of the story. There are so many launches that take place of something or the other that's in association with, and you see a publication's name. What does that say about the health of the media here?
I think that's the entire ecosystem they exist in, and it all, kind of, so these are all various kinds of commercial exercises that they are part of, in some way there's a give and take, there's a quid pro quo in every situation. Magazines like us, the quid pro quo is somewhere, it isn't substantial enough, right? So yeah, these are all different channels in which they are kind of branching out.
So what sort of advertising do you, I mean, presumably you need some kind of advertising to run.
I don't have a choice here, like beggars can't be choosers, for example. The first thing is that, so we hardly get any advertisements, and to tell you the truth, we are bleeding. So so there are hardly any takers, and when we do events, there aren't sponsors because they don't want to back something which is that political, which is taking that kind of a, strong side. So we really can't be, so whoever is kind of who has the courage to kind of choose us, we're happy to go along with them, if you're not the ones who can choose over here, really.
When we were emailing each other, we touched a little bit about the whole notion of the organic intellectual versus the industrial intellectual, that's almost a form of private or corporate intellectualism. But it's so much more difficult for the organic intellectual to be heard, isn't it, these days?
It is true, but this whole terminology, I think, first came from Antonio Gramsci. He wrote about the traditional intellectual and the organic intellectual. By traditional he meant, those intellectuals who were part of maintaining the status quo, people like teachers or people who were very, very attached to a certain academic institution or whatever it was, or like, so you go to a temple or a church and you would hear the priest saying the same thing, over centuries, and so nothing changes there. So that's the sort of intellectual who was the traditional intellectual, and the organic intellectual is someone who thinks of himself as connected to a certain movement of social change, and he's constantly negotiating with his environment to bring about a certain change. So yes, but the whole idea is that of course the intellectual cannot exist in an ivory tower. He has to exist in a society amongst all its institutions. What's in the crux is his interrelationship with the different social institutions. And as Edward Said said, that that his role should always be oppositional, should always be critical of the status quo. He should always be questioning the environment, should always be making the consensus uncomfortable. And of course it is as usual and as always, it is the eternal truth that it is always difficult. It is always difficult to be like that, but then that's the role of the intellectual and you have to stand by it.